Jamaica you have to have your thing on the radio and be accessible. But I think that when a lot of them come to foreign, a lot of them stray away. You have artists now that don't even believe in doing interviews, Kashima. Let's be honest. You can't get
No,
them to do an
absolutely.
interview,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying that, yeah, you can look at the numbers, but how is your media supposed to grow if you're not giving them your celebrity to support you as they granted their celebrity to the artist before you to pave the road for you to come and be able to be who you are? We're just not connecting the dots properly. And we go back to what I just said. As Jamaican people, we're experts at creating, but maintaining and controlling is very difficult for us. Our industry, our media industry, and our artist industry, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
look at it this way. Industry is not artists. Industry is not radio. It's producer, it's record shop,
A collective. Mm-hmm.
it's a collective thing. So if the industry is not working to support the industry, then only one aspect is growing. That's how it go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then what happens when they can't, when they're not hot again, Kashima, is we see them when them come back to know because foreign media don't want to talk to them now because they don't have the story where foreign media want. It just doesn't make sense, in my opinion.
What I want to ask you though, you're both a historian and an influencer in the space. So how do you keep yourself in check to ensure you're preserving the culture and not personalizing the narrative?
Well, I mean, believe it or not, and I mean, some people may have their other, they would have maybe have differences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perception is everything. For me, I try not to be, I over try not to be selfish with anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I may even have the opportunity to seize a moment and I don't seize it because the moment, it's not my moment alone to share. And if everybody can share it, I won't share it as well, right? When I speak for the culture. I don't speak for Chin. Right? I don't speak for Irish and Chin. I don't speak for Mighty Cone alone. I speak for the culture. If something is wrong, whether on my side or on the other side, I'm going to speak for the culture because at the end of the day, I want people to understand this, right? The only thing that we will have left after all of this is done, forget about the money and all of that stuff, is the legacy. And the legacy alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be remembered as this person who came in and took sound system culture on their back for over 3 decades and was able to change it for the better, right? I want that's my legacy. Now, if there is no sound system culture, then where does the legacy go? So what I'm saying is that my only objective has to be to preserve what you invested in so your legacy remains, right? So everything that I do is the same thing. If I'm in media, right? Because I always say to my colleagues, it not make sense if we fight for the number one radio station, number two, number three, because the industry can't run off of one radio station. You understand? It's a collective. So in that collective, we are supposed to be able to create standards in which we want to be, we want to exist in the space that we dwell in because everyone is working for legacy. Yes, we think that it's money, Kashima, but in addition to the money, it's the legacy. Legacy is
Yeah.
important.
No, as you mentioned money, you also on your platform, you spoke about Cartel's 1.35 million US dollar fee that was made public by the promoter in Trinidad. Talk to us about the advantages and disadvantages of this revelation. I know at the time you spoke specifically to how it will impact the industry negatively.
Yeah, sometimes when I speak or when people speak, people hear what they want to hear, right? When I made my comment, I was not challenging whether Cartel is, deserving of what he's being paid, right?
Mm-hmm.
My whole argument was the disclosure of the amount will send rippling effects through, the culture. This is not nothing new. that I'm speaking about, right? It's a different day in the same culture, working with the same exact people, right? For those of you who understand dub plate pricing, right, would also understand that, you have artists that would be charging a figure today, right? And the minute that they find out that our next artist coming out of the industry and I get this money, you can't pay them the money where they were getting yesterday because them feel like them either more valuable than that person or, them just they're getting shortchanged. So this is a repetitive action in the culture. I myself have done management. I've been successful at management over my journey, right? And one thing that
Mm-hmm.
I do know is that the unwritten rule for many of us is that when you're looking to price yourself, you price your talent, you look at what's going on in the space, and then you work backwards. So if the highest artist in the space is getting, $100, you're going to look at your act and say, well, my act not even close to that act that. Why am I going to take 50 for my artist? This is what we do. So if the leading artist in the space, now it's being disclosed that the leading artist in the space is getting over $1 million, right? Now nobody's going to be able to get the money where Cartel is getting, right? That's not even the conversation. However, once they realize that that type of money is out there to be being spent, what they will do
Mm-hmm.
now is say they're not satisfied with the 50,000 where they might charge. They want 70. So it ends up changing the market
So
space.
you're
And this is
thinking
not,
grassroots promoters may feel it most. You're
I
thinking.
mean, grassroots promoters will feel it because, where we are now in entertainment is that we're getting a lot of outside investors, right? There's a lot of people coming in now that's really not grassroots. They're business people who are coming in to seize an opportunity, right? And they're coming in with big pockets and they're coming with numbers. So if they can say to themselves that if I put three artists in the stadium, despite the fact that I may have to pay them, $1.5 million, right? I
Mm-hmm.
can get, I can sell out the arena. They may do it, but what it also means for grassroots promoters know is that you're not going to get that artist to do the stadium for 500,000 and then come back and do your show for 40 grand. It's not going to work for you. So we are now in a new era in the culture, whether it's good, whether it's bad, it's just the reality of it where, pricing is going to play a role in who can survive and still ride on the train and who has to come off of the train. That is what
Mm-hmm.
it is going to be because once the artists are exposed, and again, there will be some that deserve, right? This problem could all be fixed, Kashima, if we were just operating in this whole structure of pulling power versus pricing. But our culture doesn't operate in pulling power versus pricing. Our culture operates in hype versus price. So the hyper you are and the more your name are called and the more money you want to charge. But it doesn't mean that you can pull the pricing that you're trying to charge. Does that make sense?
It
So
makes a
that's
lot of
that's
sense. I
huh?
had a follow up question, but when you went there, you basically put my question to rest.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it
So
comes
yeah.
down to.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're looking at Vibes Cartel, we're saying, well, if I had $1 million or $2 million, I could invest it in Vibes Cartel and make $5 million. Is Cartel worth $2 million? Of course it is because I'm making a profit on my
Mm-hmm.
money, right? But
Mm-hmm.
what about the artist now who is going to move from 50,000 to 100,000 and cannot explain that. They don't have a new hot record. There is nothing that changed in their whole pulling power, but no, they want $50,000 more because they realize. Now, also, you have to look at Kashima is this, right? What happens when you are booked with Chin and you thought that Chin was only getting $50,000, but you now figure out said Chin I get 250,000, and you guys are booked for the same show. Automatically, your 50,000 where you are getting is not going to be substantial. You're going to want more, right? And again, I close out by saying that This is
Yeah,
not something
but
new
in
in
the
our culture.
in the same breath, too, Chin, wanting more and being in a position where you can demand more are still two different things, because you will have some persons who may want to raise their fee, but like you also outlined initially, pricing should equate to pulling power. And then you will have those who, you don't have the pulling power, you don't have the hype, but then you're just in your feelings because you are aware of somebody's fee now. But if you don't put yourself in a position where you are in demand, then unfortunately, your situation is what it is, because the promoters also have a right to decline what you're offering, or agree to it. So in those instances, you kind of, in my opinion, I think you put yourself in a position.
Some persons will price themselves out for sure, for sure, for sure, right? Others will become lucky enough to become to capitalize on the situation, meaning that this artist is only worth 20 grand, but he wants 35. But the only other option I got is to pay this next man 75,000. So I'm just going to pay him his 35. But it does change the trajectory of things, is what I'm saying. And
Yes.
again, this is not about Vibes Cartel's money. It's just about when we know certain things in our culture, it changes everything for
The
moving
industry
forward.
standards will
It,
shift.
it shifts, and that's just what it is. And maybe if you and I were artists, we probably would do the same thing. I don't know. But, we can't, we have to, and this is why I say conversation is the best thing. Whether you agree with Chin or you don't agree with Chin, I'm going to open my mouth, right? Because I'm going to learn from Kashima saying, Chin, that is not true. You're going to give me a different perspective. But I would never get that perspective if I've never said anything. It just
No,
doesn't make
absolutely.
sense.
And that you're very vocal, and I like that too, because we see where DJ Khaled, for example, he brought Vibes Cartel, Movado, Buju Banton, and Bounty Killer together, and this is pretty historic in terms of Vibes Cartel and Movado linking up for the very first time. Your thoughts on this situation? I know initially on your social media you said, "Where is Beanie Man?" But why?
Because I feel like Beanie deserves to be in at the forefront of it, right? Because let's look at it this way, and this is just me speaking from me. I'm not speaking for Beanie Man. I'm speaking for the culture in which I invested 3 decades of my life, right? Whatever problem that existed between those brethren that allowed them not to be brethren can't be any much worse or better than what exists between them and Beanie Man, right? So if we're going to say unity is the message of the day, and we're going to bring all of the branded and decorated artists to the forefront of the culture to kick down the doors them the right way, why wouldn't we want to see a Beanie Man in that lineup as well? He deserves to be there by accolades. I'm not speaking of his personality. I'm not speaking of what he's done right or wrong in the past. We're speaking about who deserves to be at the table. When I was growing up in the 90s, right, our dancehall industry was pretty much led by the three Bs: Bojo, Bounty, Beanie, right? Let's think about what we're saying, right? So if Bojo and Bounty is there, right, why wouldn't we want to ask for Beanie to be there? Beanie's a significant part of the dance hall space, right? In this era that we're speaking of. If we were speaking of another era, then I would be saying, where's Shama there? We need Shama. You understand? But so what I'm saying is that, we cannot, in our culture, and I'm passionate about this, we cannot say unity with bias. We
Yes.
cannot say unity to please some, right? And to trick, and I'm not saying this is what is being done. I am just saying that if we're saying finally dancehall is having the opportunity to get in a space that it wasn't in for a very long time, right? And this time we want to do it the right way. So our reign will last longer. Cause remember, don't know about you, Kashima, but here in the States, one time, everybody was fretting that soca parties was taking over the whole of the patrons from dancehall. Nobody was going to Jamaican parties. Everybody there had a soca party then. right? Then Afrobeats came in and it was, whoa, Afrobeats is gonna kill dancehall, right? So here it is now that the man then get back them visa, and now we're actually able to put up a fair fight with the other genres of music because we have all of the muscle where we need, right? Why would you leave out Beanie is the question that I'm asking. I don't care about Beanie's ways or what he's done in the past. Me I talk about his contribution
I definitely get your point in saying that there is no bias in calling for unity, but to put what is happening into context, I know Khaled is promoting a song, a collaboration that features Bounty Killer, Movado, Vibes Cartel, and Buju Banton. So it's as it relates to that track. So it may be a question that some could view as premature considering what that is. But I think the larger question is, why does it seem like it's a DJ Khaled that can always bring these dancehall heavyweights together as opposed to somebody from the culture or the entertainers themselves?
Well, here's the thing. I have an interesting, and maybe it's not a popular thing amongst Jamaicans with Khaled, right? Khaled is also one of the people that grew up with us, right? So I don't really look at Khaled as an outsider at all because he was there when we were all hungry. I mean, he's not hungry now, but he was there when we were all hungry, right? Trying to, dig with everybody. And we, at this time, nobody knew what they were going to be, 5-10 years down the line, right? So Khaled coming back and being able to, relate to the brethren them and show them certain aspects of potential growth that they need, I think it's a good thing. I don't look at it as he's not Jamaican or he's not part of the culture because I think Khaled is more entrenched in the culture than some of the other people that we support because Khaled did the circuit, right? He was there in the dub studios and helping the artists them and, doing what he needed to do for the artists them. And let's be also honest with Khaled, right? He don't have to do it. It has to be love. Let's think about what we're saying, right? And let's be 100% honest because I try to be honest. Khaled is not getting diamond selling records out of dance hall where you have to say, see Khaled I come back again because he does make one bag of money off a dance hall and he might make a next bag of money off a dance hall. A lot of this connection that he has to dance hall is his upbringing from what I'm seeing. Buju, Bounty, Sizzler, all of these people are people that brought him up in the business as a kid. So he's now paying it forward in his own way, saying, no matter how rich I get, I'ma still look out for my
never forget.
people. Yeah. So if he's the one that can talk some sense into them, let it be. But I'm just merely saying, and I'm not saying to include, because you just pointed out something to me. I'm not saying to include Beanie in the project. I am saying now for the benefit of the touring and the excitement. Because think about this, Kashima, right? And I said this on a post. Ultimately, it's been years since we've seen Bounty Killer and Beanie Man on stage together in Foreign. Tune for tune, right? Think about what kind of stadium that would sell out. Think about, Cartel and Movado and what kind of stadium that can sell out. Think about the fact of a 90s event with Buju Banton, Bounty Killer, and Beanie Man together on one stage. I just given you 3 tours that can give us 3 different summer. Summer number 1, summer number 2, summer number 3, right? That will help to push our industry forward. So I'm saying, like, when we speak about unity, we got to stop thinking that, we can't forgive the left hand, but we are all a vibe against the right hand.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying if we're doing it for the good of the business and the legacy of dancehall, then we all should come together. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Now let's talk about June 28th. We're so pressed for time. We definitely need a part 2, Chin, because I know you are a talker. So I know the 1 hour could not suffice. World Bash comes to Brooklyn. Talk to us about that. And is this more of, a nostalgia type of event, or what's the main purpose?
The main purpose, I have multiple purposes, right? So one of the major things that I've been doing lately is that I've been crowning a lot of the artists that I feel that are uncelebrated. They're not in the conversations, and these are selectors and artists, right? People who I think played a pivotal role in the growth and elevation of sound system culture that we just don't talk about as much. So I use the world by series, of course, to kind of highlight these bridges and say thank you. Just like how I did with Daddy Uroy, who, by the way, was actually crowned. He was buried in his crown. You know what I mean? Which was really heartfelt for me to know that I was able to give him his flowers, and his family decided that it means so well to so much to bury him in the cap and gown and the crown and all of that stuff. Right. So that is one aspect of it. It's paying homage to the people who played the game before us. And the next part of it is just to go back to the time that we spoke about earlier in the conversation, where Brooklyn was the major part of the scene here in New York, right? If there was no Brooklyn energy, then there would be no Irish and Chin, because we learned from that energy in order to become the business that we became later on in life. So it's just bringing people back to that space. I think if that's a sweet spot in my memory, then it should be a sweet spot in other people's memory as well. And I just want people to continue enjoying the culture. So every creative way that I can think about to package things, Kashima, to make people really enjoy sound system culture, that is what I'm going to be doing. So whether I'm on the radio running off my mouth, as you said, or I am, in the dance space running off my mouth, it's all about, keeping the culture alive. I believe as the music grows, it's important for brand Jamaica to also pull the sound system culture behind. Is that important?
In 2023, you received a citation from New York City Mayor Eric Adams. What did that recognition mean to you personally and for the Caribbean community at large?
What it meant to me is that we all don't have to take the same route in order to reach a level that can be celebrated and respected, right? I took the hardcore sound clash Budwood route, but yet and still, I'm respected in my community as somebody who gives back and someone who's always been there to furnish them with entertainment and trustworthy and loyal and that type of stuff. So for me, it's kind of like, so they look a hardcore thing reach, it was, and I didn't look at it as, a celebration of me. I looked at it as, because here's the thing, Kashima, before we go, I am the only one from our culture that is respected on the level that I'm respected on. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. I'm the only one that can walk into a corporate room and represent not only my brand in a corporate way, but I can represent the true culture of sound system in a corporate way. I'm not the only one with the knowledge, but I am the only one that has been accepted as this person who somehow emerged as a businessman from a hardcore culture that nobody wanted to invest in. Now we see, corporate brands and so forth getting involved in it. So when I got to sit down at the mayor's office and tell him the story of sound class culture, which he knew about because of Brooklyn, and he's from Brooklyn, right? It was appreciated, and it makes me know that sound class culture not only touched me and you, but it touched the hearts of a lot of other people as well.
But Chin, just for clarity a little bit, because I know somebody listening saying, why me? Am I the only one that is accepted? If you can just explain that a little bit. When you say that you're the only one from the culture who is accepted, like in corporate and certain spaces.
When I say certain rooms, right? And maybe I should clarify that to a certain degree, because you have corporate Jamaica as well, right? I represent the purest part of the sound system culture, the hardcore part, the good, the bad, and the in between, right? I carry the legacies and the cult and the stories of everybody who came before me, right? I honor them. I embrace them. I keep paying it forward. When I step into a room, right, to represent my culture, Stereograph steps in that room. Kilimanjaro steps in that room. Bass Odyssey steps into that room. Stone Love steps into that room. Sugar Minott steps into that room. Everybody who's invested in the culture steps into that room. That is my thing. That is my gift. So let me not say the only one, because people may take that challenging, right? I am one of the few, right, which gives you the culture undiluted, right? I don't change because I'm trying to get sponsorship. It is what it needs to be when it comes to what we do. So and in our little circle, as the people that I said that we grew up with, whether it's the Matarans, the Troopers, the Who and the Who and the Who, right? We all look at it. We might not all get along every day, but we all look at it, and we look at the growth of Irish and Chin and say, listen, we all came together to make a globally recognized sound system company, and we're happy for that. Remember, I don't own a sound system, right? So my company represents sound systems, but I don't have a sound system that I particularly own. And that's my story.
No, final question for young creatives, promoters, sound system operators, or selectors coming up. What advice would you give them about longevity, purpose, and preserving culture?
Consistency, determination, and consistency. I was able to do what I've accomplished, not because I'm smarter than anyone else. I have common sense, but I don't brag to be smarter than anyone else. What I will say that I have over many people is determination and consistency. If I try to get through the front door and I can't get through, I'm gonna knock again, and I'm gonna knock again, and I'm gonna knock again. So if you have the passion for something, and you definitely have the talent for it, you have to be persistent. You have to be determined, and you have to be consistent, because the door doesn't open on the first knock. And as I explained to you from the beginning, we had to knock a whole heap of times in order to get the door open. But when the door opens, all of those no's become worth it. Because if you get to the door and you get yes the first time, it doesn't mean as much as when you got to that door and you got that yes after getting 100 no's. So yeah, just the consistency. That's just what it is. That's my story. And again, it's sound system culture for me.
Garfield Chin Bourne, thank you so much. This was absolutely awesome, and thank you for taking time out.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's our time. Road to Success with Chin of Irish and Chin. A success story indeed.
It may only be another minute. It may only be another minute.